Hi Year 10, Mr. Tapley here for your next lesson of Year 10 History. This lesson, this double period, we are looking at reviewing and revising for the CAT. So you're reviewing and revising Australian involvement in World War II, key events, individuals, and concepts from that part of our World War II unit. Success criteria is to identify key topics, use available support resources to study and review our understanding of Australian involvement in World War II. So I understand the most recent stuff that we did prior to the Dev was obviously the end of the war, so looking at Japan and the Holocaust. For the CAT, we're going to be moving backwards in history a bit, and we're looking at the stuff we did on Kokoda and Singapore. So for those of you with short memories, this should provide a nice little checklist and help you structure your revision efforts in the double period. So you've got a nice checklist of key topics and events that will be assessed in the World War II CAT, which is another source analysis. Same structure as the Dev, same skills that you'll be using. So the source analysis skills at the bottom there, that's probably not going to be what you're revising this lesson. You know, you've had the practice in the Dev, you had the workshop of skills and tips and tricks yesterday, but for those of you that want some extra help, I recommend go back through the slides and check out that acronym on source analysis that we did just before the Dev. It was called AppCams, and that was basically a way of looking at sources and looking at their author, the place where the source was created, assessing your prior knowledge, causes, so why was the source created, the audience, the message, and the significance. So that's just some extra source analysis stuff. I know I'm hammering it home a bit, I'm going over the top repeating myself, but the CAT is a source analysis, so that's why I'm trying to keep you interested in that skill. But the knowledge that you'll need for the CAT, Australian involvement in World War II, the first big topic you'll need to study is obviously the fall of Singapore. That was the first major event in the Pacific War for Australia, so you'll be looking at the fall of Singapore, significance, so why was this an important event for Australia? The impact, so the event created a number of prisoners of war, the POWs, and then it obviously impacted our relationship with Britain and America. That was one of the biggest things to happen during the fall of Singapore, really, was that we went from being Team Britain to Team America, because Britain failed us during the fall of Singapore, and that completely changed our international relations with the motherland country who we got into the war to support. Really, we wouldn't have been in the war if not for Britain. Then they kind of failed us. Now we're best mates with America, which might not seem like much now, but they help us out later in the war, and we actually get into future wars because of what they did in World War II. It's all right, I'll help you in Vietnam and I'll help you in Iraq because you helped us in World War II. So that's a big part of the impact of the fall of Singapore. The Australian home front. So how did the war actually affect Australia? So justification for entering the war, supporting Britain, supporting the Commonwealth. Propaganda. So similar structure for the CAT as the Dev. So there's a good chance you will find yourself with an image or some text that is related to propaganda from World War II. So you need to understand what it was, why we used it, and what they were trying to achieve. Fear of invasion, especially after the Darwin bombing and the Sydney Harbour submarine assault, there was this fear that Japan would invade Australia. So there was this massive fear of invasion in Australia and the Australian home front. So looking at the national morale, the national sense of terror, I guess, that we had, that's something you'll need to discuss, to study before the CAT. Kokoda. We did spend a bit of time on Kokoda. We had a little learning task where we looked at source analysis stuff from Kokoda, so hopefully you've still got some memory of that. But it was a significant event in the war and in Australian military history. So look at the significance of that event. Why was it important for Australia and the war, really? It was one of the first defeats of Japan in World War II, a major defeat. It was considered Australia's last stand. Key events like the Battle of Milne Bay. So what was the impact of Kokoda? Pacific War. This stuff I've just put in there, I guess, as some extra information that you can look at. So when you go into the CAT, you'll have a few extra topics that you can talk about. So this one here, Pacific War, not as important as Kokoda, Homefront, Singapore, but for those of you that want some extra ammunition for the CAT, if you drop in references to the Battle of the Coral Sea, and the Battle of the Midway, which were 2 naval battles in the Pacific, kind of just above Australia, near Papua New Guinea. That was just some extra information I thought might be helpful for you guys if you're looking to flex your knowledge. So those are the main topics that you're using for the CAT, to study for the CAT. In terms of where to find them, the class slides, the textbook, support resources examined throughout the unit, all the slides, not all the slides, but a number of the slides. I've put in little websites or videos. All of those things will help you with your revision efforts. You know, watching a 3-minute video on YouTube can help you prepare for the CAT. In terms of these specific pages and slide numbers, so Australian involvement in World War II is mainly in Chapter 2, and it's from slides of this presentation, slides 24 to 42. And then I've gone through and I've given you the specific numbers for each of those topics. Pacific War, in terms of Coral Sea, where is it? We didn't actually talk about in the slides. Didn't have time. Remote learning, all that jazz. But there is some stuff in the textbook, and I've just attached one extra little video there to give you some information about that event. So, yeah. The other thing I'll say is that the Kokoda source analysis learning test that we did, I've put a couple of websites at the top of that, which will definitely be able to give you some useful information about Kokoda. And this website here, the Anzac portal, actually has stuff about Coral Sea, Milne Bay. So a number of these websites, Anzac portal, Kokoda expeditions, the AWM, the Australian War Museum. I think that's the acronym. I know that's the acronym. I can't remember if that's what it stands for. But there's a number of good websites that will help you with some extra information on these topics. There's that Battle of the Coral Sea video. And yes, so that's the revision aspect of the video. And then you can actually just go and check the video lectures for these topics as well if you need a refresher on Singapore or on Kokoda. Those are all there in the video lectures playlist, I guess. Now the CAT itself follows the same structure as the DEV, so that should be very familiar with y'all. So you've got one visual primary source, propaganda poster, photograph, painting, whatever. One text source, so it could be a speech, a diary entry, a newspaper article, etc. And then an extended response question, assessing your prior knowledge of Australia in World War II. Same thing as the DEV. CAT will be completed via Google Form, submitted through Google Classroom. You get one lesson, so it's 40 to 50 minutes. It's going to have 6 to 10 questions, 20 marks total. The assessment will be accessible 5 to 10 minutes before the lesson, so it'll just pop up into your Google Classroom news feed. So you can see Semester 2 CAT scheduled for 12:55 on Friday. That'll show up in your Google Classroom. And then that will close 5 or 10 minutes after the lesson, you know, just to give people who are having some technical difficulties. I don't know about you guys, but my internet's been running hella slow with all the zooming and the videoing and the interneting. Anyway, so if you're having trouble with your internet or if you're having trouble with the content, again, please let me know. I'm happy to provide extra support, provide an extension if you guys let me know before the CAT. Note, here's the important note that not many of you will be happy to see. Students will be completing the CAT closed book. So unlike the DEV, which was the rough draft, the practice version, where you had training wheels on, we're throwing you in the deep end of the pool. No assistance from the textbook, no summary sheet. So this is a closed book CAT. I encourage you to create a summary sheet just to revise. You know, it's good to read the information, write it down, and then write it in your own words, because you're thinking about that information almost in 3 stages. You're absorbing it, thinking about it, and then recreating it. However, you will not be allowed to use your summary sheet for the CAT. Obviously, I can't come in and look at you while you're doing the CAT, just staring through the windows. But let me show you a neat little feature in Google Classroom. I'm not sure if I've shown it to you guys. I know I've shown it to my geography class, but Google Classroom assignments have a plagiarism check feature. So I can just click on anything that looks a little bit suspect, and it will show up in Google search results. So any information that looks a bit suspicious or has been copy and pasted from other sites or sources. But I'm hoping that I won't have to use that, and I can trust you guys to complete this CAT honestly. I've also known y'all for a bit. I haven't seen y'all for a bit, but I can tell what your writing looks like. So if I see, oh, so-and-so has used that word, I don't think they know what that word means. I'm going to investigate, and I'll probably be able to tell that you've copied that straight from the textbook or straight from the slides. So please be honest with yourselves, be honest with Mr. Tapley, and closed book cat. That's all the information I think I've got for you guys this lesson. Again, all the information to study is in this textbook and the class slides. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, best of luck for the cat on Friday. I hope you guys are well. I'll probably start off next week's classes before we start our new area of study, immigration. I'll probably give you guys a self-care lesson just to take a deep breath because you've been working hard. But yeah, hope you're well and best of luck for the cat on Friday. Cheers.